Good morning, just checking the sound quality on here. I'll also transition to our Scratch screen and check that that works. Here's my Scratch program. I'll just click on the green flag, make it start. That all seems to work, and now I will turn the sounds off and be live in 5 minutes at past. Good morning and welcome to Earth Games UK live stream lesson. We're going to answer any questions that we've had about the game so far. So today we did adding some more characters. If you scroll down in your sprite area, you'll see you've got lots of characters down here. You've got all those beetles and worms if you finish the third lesson. If you've any questions at all, put them in the comments. Remember, you can also go on the website and I'll show you how to do that in a moment. Right, so let's cover some common problems that people might have. One thing that I know might be an issue is finding the game where you can get the worm and the beast, well, the worm and the netting from. So if you open another tab or window and go to the Scratch website, if you click here in the search field, you need to type Hedgehog Republic. So the important thing is make sure you spell it right, because it's an easy mistake to make. Press enter. So there is a project here, but remember this is not what we're looking for. We're looking for a studio. So a studio is a place on Scratch where a collection of games are put. So this is our studio. So click on here. So here we go. As we do the games after each lesson, you can see there's ones from each lesson showing what the game will look like at the end of that lesson. The one we're looking for is just this basic one here called Sprites. So you can see it's Sprites by Blue Sky Moon. So click on that one. So it's opening up the game. We're going to download a sprite from here. So you can do this in many other games too, if you particularly like the design they've got. And it also downloads any code in them. These ones are empty, they don't have any code. Let's click See Inside. We're going to make the code for these ones. So we've drawn the designs for you, but you've got to sort out the code. So here's the worm and there's the netting. To download them then you right click and then you click on export. So this saves it onto your computer. So you save the file. There we go, I can see up here that's downloaded. Now you have to go back to your game. So that's the important bit, to make sure you go back to your game, and then you can hover over this one and go to the top option of Upload Sprite. There we go. If you can't find it, the thing to do is search up here because it's called worm. So if we type worm and press enter, hopefully it will find a worm, because there's not going to be many files on your computer called worm. It's taking its time. So once you've found it, you need to click on it and click open, and that will put it into your game. And as I said, it hasn't got any code in these ones, but it does bring the different costumes that it's got with it. Okay, that's taking a little time, but I think you get the gist of how to do that. I've already got the worms in my game, haven't I, and the netting, so I'm sorted there. But if you have any problems, have a look at that to find the game again. So let's have a look at another problem you might find, is that your worms don't work. So when we upload the worm into our game, I think I might try and upload it this time so you can see what it looks like when we upload the worm. Let's see if I can see it without having to search. There we go, worm sprite. It's importing it and it will appear at the bottom of your sprite screen, so down here. So here's my worm. It hasn't got any code in it. Now the thing is, if you go and duplicate this, so if you right click on the new worm and duplicate it, then at the bottom here, come on, down we go. See, there's another worm, so that's worm 5. If we duplicate this one, so we've got lots of worms there, but if I get the hedgehog to move around and touch those worms, let's see what happens. So there's one worm here. Can you see it's not disappearing, it's actually going on top of the hedgehog. And that's because we've imported it, but we haven't added any code to it. So some of them, yeah, those two. See, can you see this one here and this one? They aren't wiggling, so they must be these ones we've put in without any code. So remember, you don't duplicate them without doing the code first. So do the code and then duplicate them. So let me delete those extra worms I've added because they don't work. You can add more worms to your game, as many as you like. I wouldn't go crazy, but use it wisely. You don't want the game completely full of worms. It wouldn't be realistic, would it? So let's look at any other problems you might find. So another issue you might find is the hedgehog ending up going backwards. Now this is a bit of a just a bug in the game, and if you're really keen, you can edit your game in the future to make sure that when the speed gets low enough, you can make it not go backwards. But let me show you what happens. So when we go in the netting, can you see our speed is going down? And it carries on going down. There we go, 0, and now it's gone into minus numbers. So if it's gone into minus numbers, if I then press forward, so I'm pressing to the right, and you can see the hedgehog is going back to the left. If I press down, it's going up. If I press up, it's going down. And that's because the speed, which you can't see now because this is in the way, has gone to minus 2.75. And if we look down here, do you remember when we used the variable speed? If we go down a bit, oh no, I'm in the wrong one. That shows you. Check up here, you can see a beetle. I'm in the beetle code area. I don't want the beetle, I want the hedgehog. Here we are. So we set speed to 2 at the top here, but when we use it for the arrow keys, we use speed here for the right arrow. So that means if we press the right arrow, it will move 2. But if the number is minus 2, it will, if we press the right arrow instead of going 2 that way, it will take away 2 and go that way. So that's why, it's because the speed is getting into negative numbers. And in our game, we haven't put anything in to catch that. You could add something in. You could add a block in the netting. So I can show you how to fix it. We haven't included that in instructions, so it's an extra. You could add something in here, which would be an if loop, checking the value of speed. So you've got, if it's touching the hedgehog, then change hog health by minus 2 and change speed by minus 2.5. So what we could do is put this one inside an if loop. So I'm going to keep the wait block with that one because I always want it to wait. And I'm going to put an if loop around this one. So that's from the control category. And I want to check if the speed is greater than 1. So long as the speed is greater than 1, where are we? Yeah, so long as the speed is greater than 0 is what we're looking at. Then we want to take away some speed. So if we go to operators, there we go. So we want this greater than block, and variables, we'll get the variable speed. Now if we put this in the first block here, there we go. Now if we add this inside the other if loop, so can you see it's always forever checking if it's touching the hedgehog, and then it's going to check if the speed is greater than, so we don't want it to be 50, we're going to say greater than 0.1, so it's nearly 0, then change speed by minus 2.5. And if I click that, I don't know why it's not saving right now. Sometimes it has problems doing that. Let's see. No. Okay, so if you do that, then it would catch that section when the speed gets lower than 0. Okay, so that's one that you might have. There's lots of other problems that you might have, and it's hard to anticipate exactly what they are. So I wanted to make sure you knew how to ask questions. So if you have got any questions, then put them in the chat for this video. If you are not here at the moment and are watching this later, then the way to do it is go to our website, which is earthgames.uk. And if you click on the Learn section, we've got here Ask an Expert. So if you enter a question in here, that will send it directly to us, and you can ask us any questions you've got about the coding that you've done so far. So it doesn't have to be about what you've done in today's lesson, but anything you've done in the last 3 weeks. So send your stuff to us. The answers will appear on the FAQ page, which is on the website. So you can put your questions in here. We might ask for further detail if we can't make sense of what you're saying, like a screenshot or something like that. But hopefully we can sort you out. It's hard to anticipate because everyone has different glitches, I think. The other thing you might want to look at on our website is the other sprites that are available. So if you go to Resources and Image Library, we've got a lot of sprites that are linked from here. Here we go. So this is the sprite library. And if you click on this link, it will take you to a project in Scratch. And this project has lots of other insects in. So if you wanted a different beetle, for example, there's a different one in there. So these are intended for the insect competition that we're also running at the moment. So you might want to have a look on our website about that. There's some fantastic prizes. It's just loading, it's a bit slow. So if we have a look inside this project, so you can do the same thing you did with the worms and the netting. You can export them and then import them into your project. So we've got various sprites here. It's just loading them. There's still some more. So you can see you could have a different beetle. You could, later on we'll add a badger. We won't use this one because we want the badger to be the view from the top. But there are some other insects like a dragonfly you could add. And if you click the green flag, you can see that all these are animated already. So if we exported any of these, so for example this beetle, if we export that one, so right click and export. So if we did that, it would already have the code in it for movement. Yeah, I think it's struggling a bit today there, I'm afraid. And you could upload that into your game and it would already move. So that's another thing you could add. If we go back to the game in Scratch, yeah, it's getting a bit slow, unfortunately, there. So we're downloading this walking dung beetle. So let's download that. And then if we hover over here and go to upload a sprite. So remember, this is your game, isn't it? So you can add the things that you want to your game. We want you to learn more about beetles, about hedgehogs, sorry, and hedgehogs do eat beetles, so we can add another beetle. So that's the walking dung beetle. We'll just wait for it to sort itself out and then we can press open and it will appear in our game. There we go. So this one, unlike the netting, does already have code in it. So this is the dung beetle, can you see it up here? And it's got the code in already that's switching to next costume. So there it is. I think it's possibly a little big compared to the other one. It's hard to say, isn't it? Let's try it again with saving it. I think it's struggling because of the streaming at the same time. It can't cope with it today. There we go, you can see it's doing it now, wiggling its legs. So we could make this beetle move in the same way that we're making these beetles move. Perhaps you'd prefer this one because it looks more realistic. But this one is quite handy because remember it was from the Scratch library, which we can get to just clicking here. So remember, if you can't find the beetle, you probably can see it on your screen. If you've got a screen similar size to mine, you can just type in here beetle and then find it. So I think that's all the common problems I could think of. There are other things to watch out for in terms of the variables because we are using a lot of variables in our game. And to make sure you're changing the right variables. So for example, in the worm code, make sure you change this drop down to be hog health. And same when you're doing something to the speed in the netting one, you need to make sure you're changing the hog health here and changing the speed here. So you've probably just got this line here. So watch out for these ones. Remember, you can just click the drop down and see the other variables. Okay, right, I think that covers everything that I can think of. If you've got any problems, remember to use that Ask an Expert link and join us next week for the next lesson when we'll be moving on. We'll be adding a hog house for our hedgehog, which you'll be designing. And also we'll be adding a way to win or lose the game. So I hope you can join us next week. So it'll be the same time next week.